2.4 liters 167 horsepower. Toyota Camry in the 40th body is available with 4 different power plants. Most often found under the hood is the 2.4-liter 2 engine. This is not a motor, but a workhorse. It runs for a long time and until the end, does not require serious investments. But it's not that simple. If the radiator sandwich on the car has never been cleaned, the engine will easily overheat. Moreover, everything can end with a literal cylinder head failure due to the fact that the threads for its bolts in the cylinder block will not hold up. The 2 engine suffered from this until about 2010, then engineers optimized the cooling circuit. But still, you shouldn't abuse the reliability of this motor. Cheap oil replacement intervals of more than 10,000 kilometers and high engine temperatures due to poor cooling result in oil burn. In general, the 2 engine tends to eat oil from the assembly line. In a good way, when buying, it is worth assessing the oiliness of the spark plugs and even looking into the cylinders, how much carbon is there, whether there is still home left, and whether there are any scuffs. In general, if the owner did not abuse the unpretentiousness of this engine and simply maintained it normally, then the 2 unit easily lasts more than 500,000 kilometers. Then, most likely due to critical wear of the cylinder walls, compression will decrease and accompanying symptoms will appear in engine operation. During this mileage you will have to change several timing chains. They last approximately 200,000 kilometers. This service life directly depends on the oil change interval. The 2 engine also does not have hydraulic compensators. If suddenly the car is equipped with gas equipment, then the thermal gaps will have to be adjusted every 100,000 kilometers or even more often. Hybrid 2.4 liters 2 FXE Plus electric motor, 190 horsepower. There are Toyota Camrys with a hybrid power plant on sale. It is based on almost the same 2.4-liter engine, but running on the Atkinson cycle. Its geometric compression ratio has been increased to 12.5. An electric motor is connected to it. In total, this power plant produces 190 horsepower. By the way, the internal combustion engine and electric motor are connected to the cross-axle differential not by a variator, but by a proprietary power divider with a 2-row planetary gear. What can you say about a hybrid? There is no need to be afraid of him. Its weak point is the inverter. Moreover, the inverter fails, i.e. overheats due to the cessation of antifreeze circulation in its cooling circuit. Firstly, the level of antifreeze in a separate tank must be normal. Secondly, the inverter cooling system pump must work. It should turn on immediately after starting the power plant. Its inclusion and the murmur of antifreeze can be heard approximately 5 seconds after turning on the ignition with the brake pedal pressed. The battery is located behind the rear seat and goes into the trunk. There are no problems with the battery. It does not die entirely and completely, only in separate cells. They can be changed separately. Specialized hybrid services will help with this. The hybrid battery express test is very simple. The battery must be fully charged. You drive onto a straight line and start from a standstill with the pedal fully depressed. Rush like this for 300 to 500 meters. In this case, the battery should be discharged by 2 to 3 divisions. If the charge has dropped to half or more, then some of its cells will have to be replaced. Cells can be more accurately diagnosed with a multimeter. 2.52 RFA 180 horsepower. On the restyled Camry V40 from the USA, the base engine is a 2.5-liter 2.52 RFA. This engine was later used in the Camry V50. This is an excellent and reliable engine, with hydraulic compensators in the valve drive. Just change the oil in it every 10,000 kilometers, and 500,000 mileage without breakdowns is guaranteed. If you save money, the timing chain will have to be changed at about 200,000 kilometers, and there is also the prospect of oil consumption. 3.5 liters 2 GRFA V6 278 horsepower. The top-end engine for the Camry is also very good in every sense. The 3.5-liter 2GR-FA is reliable and impressive in its temperament. At the very beginning of the production of this engine, a rubber metal tube burst, supplying oil to the phase shifters on the right, i.e. on the rear cylinder head. It was replaced under warranty. The all-metal tube 15,772 to 31,030 must be installed. For high mileage, it is worth checking or changing the hose to the oil cooler. A Toyota V6 should idle smoothly and should not smoke from the oil filler neck or exhaust pipe. The V40 Toyota Camry is the last Camry available with a manual transmission. Such cars are rarely found on sale. In principle, there are no problems with a manual transmission. Automatic transmissions are reliable and generally considered indestructible. As a rule, they are sent for repair due to wear on the torque converter lockup clutch. Toyota automatic transmissions were created, of course, by Aisin. Aisin U250E 5-speed automatic transmission. The 2.4-liter engine is powered by a 5-speed U250E transmission. If it is sent for repairs due to age, then all the consumables in it are simply changed, from oil seals to clutches. If the owner drove aggressively, wear may occur on the rear cover, which houses the overdrive drum support. Aisin U760E 6-speed automatic transmission. Aisin U660E 6-speed automatic transmission. The American Camry with a 2.5-liter engine is powered by a newer and no less reliable U760E automatic transmission. This is a lightweight version of the U660E 6-speed transmission found in the 3.5-liter V6. The U760E automatic easily runs up to 400,000 kilometers or more. There were no childhood diseases in the design of this transmission. It breaks down due to wear and tear of consumables. Just don't spare money on changing the oil every 60,000 to 80,000 kilometers, and everything will be fine. All this can be said about the slightly older U660E, but with reservations. In the early years, this machine struggled with some congenital weaknesses. But this is not even the most important thing. This transmission is paired with an engine that motivates you to drive aggressively and boldly. Yes, 3.5-liter Camrys are often driven this way. Accordingly, the load on the transmission is greater. Its service life directly depends on the adequacy of the pilot. The oil in the hybrid transmission also needs to be changed. Replacement is simple, literally like a manual transmission. For replacement, 4 liters of Toyota WS transmission fluid are used. The Toyota Camry suspension is fine, especially if the car is driven on 16-inch wheels. Wheels with a larger diameter mean smaller profile tires, which help the suspension less easily endure the rigors of the roads. Suspension consumables are bushings and stabilizer rods. They last an average of 60,000 kilometers. Original bushings and rods will cost $7 and $20. Very cheap. The ball joints for the front arms are removed and replaced separately. The original ball joints will cost $50. Everything else in the front suspension lasts 150,000 kilometers. The front control arm silent blocks are sold complete with it. You'll be lucky if you can buy an original lever for $200. There are many proposals for substitutes, so silent blocks can be repressed. The rear suspension has 3 thin arms for each wheel. The original ones cost $60, $100. They last 200,000 kilometers or more. In general, the Toyota Camry suspension is very durable, simple and inexpensive. Everything is complicated with the body of a Toyota Camry, especially if the car has been driven to the brink and literally left to rot. You're unlikely to find a Camry with rust showing through on the exterior body panels. The paint around door handles and on door edges stays strong and long-lasting. If the car is not washed often in winter, the lower edges of all doors may become covered with saffron milk caps. Also, the rear wheel arches will slowly rust, but these are minor things. Corrosion creates problems in other places. If the driver's foot mat gets wet, the steel floor underneath will rust to holes. Lift the carpet in this place and be sure to look. Then we lift the hood and inspect the front glasses, i.e. front shock absorber supports. On a Camry with 4-cylinder engines they are not covered with anything, but on a car with a V6 engine they are covered with carpet. In any case, if corrosion appears in this place, then this is bad. Corrosion appears from inside the glass at its front and works its way out. In the future, holes will simply appear here, the glass will weaken and may burst. There is only one way out to digest rusty glasses. Take parts from the donor car and weld them. Another body part that quickly rusts is the pipe connecting the tank neck and the tank itself. Often it rusts to holes and gasoline spills out. If this has not happened yet, you need to remove the rear left locker and inspect the pipe. Next, depending on the scale of corrosion, we either remove the pipe, clean it, paint it, coat it with anti-corrosion, or buy a new one. Don't delay this. By the way, if the mudguards, i.e. since the steel arches in the body are in poor condition, you will have to resort to repairing them, overcooking, cleaning and coating with anti-corrosion. Next, open the trunk lid and inspect its edges for corrosion. Then we lift the rubber seal around the trunk perimeter and assess the condition of the side. If corrosion is present in the gutter, especially in the contact areas of body parts welded together, this may indicate an accident. In general, the original body metal of a Toyota Camry after body repair blossoms after a few years. There is literally nothing you can do about this. Be sure to inspect the trunk floor in the niche for the spare wheel. On bodies tortured by road reagents, corrosion breaks through from below. If there is water in the niche, then you need to look for a technological hole that is not covered by a plug. Most likely the plug just fell off. Other steel problems of the Toyota Camry are mainly cosmetic in nature. The paint on the windshield wiper arms peels off and is completely washed off, exposing corroding silumen. It happens that the wiper arms begin to touch the rear edge of the hood. This indicates wear on the plastic bushing around the trapezoid spline pin. Either we change the trapezoid assembly, or we grind out the repair sleeve. The original alloy wheels are poorly and unreliably painted, their silver coating bulges and falls off. That's why Camrys with hubcaps look much more elegant. Without lubrication, the hood hinges jam and do not work correctly when closed. The rear edge of the hood rises, increasing the gap between it and the wing. Either lubricate or buy unworn used hinges. An inoperative driver's door stop and sagging hinges indicate the Camry's high mileage much better than the numbers on the odometer. The 40th Camry should be inspected for corrosion on a lift. We'll talk about this later. The slanted headlights of the 40th Camry from the factory shine poorly even with xenon and expensive original lamps with a D4S socket. Over the years, headlight glasses become cloudy, and in addition, the coating on the lens reflectors peels off, so the headlight light becomes completely dim. You have to apply for restoration of the original headlights or buy a new non-original one. The Camry's interior is huge both in width and length. Just a Toyota Sequoia at minimum wage. The interior is made extremely simply, one might say cheaply, but the interior plastic on the handles and steering wheel, i.e. in places of contact with the palms, it retains its decent appearance for a long time and does not rub off. The upholstery is also made to last. The salon's inexpensive trim levels with imitation wood decor look truly rich. This car may have problems with the steering shaft drive shaft. This is indicated by either a metallic knock or a biting and tight rotation of the steering wheel. If the upper crosspiece of the steering shaft or the splines in the connection of the upper and lower shaft are worn out, then knocking and play usually appear. If the steering wheel is difficult to rotate, then road chemicals and corrosion have caused wear on the lower crosspiece. The problem is known, by the way. It has been carried over to the next generations of Camry. There are many offers for non-original intermediate steering shafts with crosspieces. Specialized service stations also offer replacement of crosspieces. If the buttons on the Toyota Camry steering wheel stop working, then the problem is a broken steering cable. This is not a common problem. If the car is equipped with parking sensors, be sure to turn them on. The off button is located to the left of the steering wheel at knee level. If the machine starts beeping constantly, and one of the sensors is faulty, note that the control chip of the interior fan may fail, and the fan will work constantly, even when the ignition is turned off. You will have to change the fan along with its control electronics.